Hi, friends. I want to share a story, a kind of modern day Rabbi Nachman style fable written by one of my favorite authors, Bill Watterson, who is better known as the author of the fantastic comic strip Calvin and Hobbes that really was very present throughout my childhood. So it's a short fable I'll share. There's fantastic artwork as well, but I'll just share the story with you now. Long ago, the forest was dark and deep. There, shrouded in mists, lived the mysteries. Nobody had ever seen them, but they seemed to be everywhere. And the people lived in suspicion and fear. To protect themselves, the people built enormous walls. And within those walls, storytellers told of the mystery's bizarre and terrifying powers. Artists depicted the people's many sufferings. If only we could be rid of these horrible mysteries, people whispered, glancing over their shoulders and hurrying on. But every day, things happened for which there were no explanations. These were frightful times. Finally, the desperate king summoned his knights and ordered them to capture a mystery. Perhaps the mystery's secrets could be learned and their powers could be thwarted. So the knights set off into the misty forest. Year after year, they searched. Many knights were never seen again. But eventually, one dazed and exhausted knight staggered back to the king. A mystery had been captured. The public thronged to the great unveiling. But the mystery was nothing like what the ancient stories had led the people to expect. The people were stunned. The mystery looked surprisingly ordinary. Once understood, its powers were not all that remarkable. And over time, each new mystery they discovered was even less impressive. Gradually, the people stopped fearing the mysteries. They laughed at the old paintings. Soon, the great walls were dismantled and the forest cut down. The people spread across the once fearsome land. The mysteries vanished, and the people lived luxuriously. They were finally in control of everything. By and by, however, the sky turned a slightly weird color. People wondered about it, but the king assured everyone that this was a perfectly normal variation. Nevertheless, the wizards watched the horizon uneasily and made note of the strange creaks and shudders occurring far below in the ground. Acrid smells drifted in from across the seas. Sometimes flaming objects fell from the sky. Animals started migrating to remote corners of the earth. The scouring winds became more persistent. And more often, things disappeared. Rather late, the people grew alarmed. Time moved on. Centuries passed, eons passed. The universe continued as usual, and the mysteries lived happily ever after. The end. I've now read this little story a number of times. I get something new from it each time, this little fable. And it makes me think of the phrase that recurs throughout the Yom Kippur liturgy. Ani afar ve'efer, I am but dust and ashes. This acknowledgement that we hear in Unatane Tokef and in just the core of the message of Yom Kippur that we are mortal, that we are finite, and that we ultimately as individuals are not the center of the universe. And yet, a Jewish response, I feel like, to Bill Watterson's book might be that other slip of paper that we're told to keep in our pockets by Reb Simcha Bunim, that the whole world was created for me. So as we approach Yom Kippur, thinking about our place in the cosmos, thinking about the meaning and purpose of our own individual lives, I want to situate ourselves rightly, with anava, with humility, with the right kind of balance in this year to come. Knowing that we are just dust, ultimately, that time will move on. And yet, we are called upon as Jewish people, as communities, to act with agency in the world. What do we want that agency to be? How do we want to respond to the world which presents us with so much fear, but also with so much to be in awe of? How do we want to respond to that vastness, to that great mystery of life with the appropriate awe in return? I think this is a question for us to sit with and each to generate our own answers. And I want to wish for all of us that we find that path ahead. Gemar, chatimah, tovah, may you all be sealed along that path of life for good.